Win the morning, control your start. Every single day, you wake up with two options: to own the day or let the day own you. The moment your eyes open, life is asking you a question: what are you going to do with the time I just gave you? The truth is, most people lose the day before it even begins, not because they aren't capable, but because they don't take control of how they start. The way you approach your morning determines how you carry yourself through the rest of the day. When you start reactive, you stay reactive. When you start intentional, you move with purpose, clarity, and focus. When you wake up, you have a choice to scroll or to grow, to complain or to commit, to hit the snooze button or to hit the ground running. Every single action at the beginning of your day is shaping your mindset. Those first moments aren't small, they are sacred. They set the tone for everything that follows. That's why discipline in the morning is not just about routine, it's about respect. Respect for your time, your purpose, and your potential. Think about it: if you can't control the first hour of your day, how can you expect to control the other 23? You can't win the game if you're already losing the warm-up. The morning isn't about perfection, it's about preparation. It's where you remind yourself why you do what you do. It's where you get your mind aligned with your mission. Because if your mindset isn't right, nothing else will be. Winning the morning starts before the alarm even rings. It's about having intention the night before. It's about deciding that tomorrow will not control you, you will control tomorrow. It's about knowing that success doesn't start when you walk into work, or when the camera turns on, or when the opportunity shows up. It starts when your feet hit the floor. That's when the real battle begins. Not against the world, but against your excuses, your comfort, and your laziness. When you get up early, when you pray, when you read, when you exercise, when you plan, you're not just building a schedule, you're building a standard. You're telling yourself, I'm not waiting for motivation, I'm leading with discipline. Because the truth is, motivation fades, but discipline creates momentum. And momentum doesn't come from doing everything perfectly, it comes from doing something consistently. The reason mornings matter so much is because they test your mindset when nobody's watching. They test what you do when there's no crowd, no applause, no reward, just you and your willpower. And when you learn to win those moments, you start to win everything else. The morning teaches you patience, focus, and accountability. It teaches you that success isn't built in public, it's built in private, in those quiet moments when you decide to keep going even when no one cares. Control your start, because life will always throw something at you. But when your foundation is strong, when your mindset is set before the chaos comes, you stay steady while everyone else is shaken. The people who win aren't the ones who have it easy, they're the ones who prepare for the storm before it hits. That preparation happens in the morning. That's where you get your armor on. That's where you remind yourself that today is not promised, so you're not wasting it. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't rush into the noise. Don't let the world dictate your focus. Take a moment, breathe. Be grateful you got another shot at this thing called life. Then decide that no matter what happens, you're going to own the day, because the morning doesn't just start your day, it sets your direction. When you win the morning, you don't just get ahead, you get aligned. And that's where real success begins. Embrace the hard growth hides in the grind. Every person wants success, but not everyone is willing to go through what success demands. Everybody loves the outcome, but few respect the process. The truth is, greatness doesn't live in comfort zones, it's buried deep inside the struggle, in the pain, in the moments that test your patience and your purpose. You can't skip the grind and still expect the growth. The grind is the classroom where life teaches you who you are when things don't go your way. That's where you find your character, your resilience, and your heart. When life hits you, it's not trying to break you, it's trying to build you. Every hardship carries a hidden gift, but most people never unwrap it because they quit too early. The hard seasons are not punishments, they are preparation. They're shaping you for the thing you've been asking for. You said you wanted strength, so life gave you struggle. You said you wanted patience, so life gave you delay. You said you wanted courage, so life gave you fear to face. Everything you prayed for is connected to a challenge that demands you to grow. The grind exposes what comfort hides. When everything is easy, you don't question your limits. You don't learn discipline, endurance, or humility. But when things get hard, you start to see what you're really made of. You discover the gaps in your preparation. You realize how much more focus, faith, and fire you still need. The hard days reveal your potential, not your weakness. They separate those who want it from those who say they want it. You have to understand the grind is supposed to hurt. Growth is supposed to stretch you. Nothing beautiful comes without pressure. A diamond doesn't become a diamond until it survives the fire and the weight. The same principle applies to you. Every obstacle, every disappointment, every long night and lonely morning, they're all molding you into someone stronger, wiser, and more dangerous to doubt. You might not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize the struggle was the best thing that ever happened to you. When you embrace the hard, you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in mindset changes everything. Because life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Every trial is an invitation to grow. Every challenge is a mirror showing you your next level. And when you stop running from the grind, when you stop hiding from discomfort, you start to transform. You begin to rise above your circumstances instead of being defined by them. There will be days when it feels unfair. There will be moments when quitting seems easier than continuing. But that's the exact moment when you must remind yourself why you started. The grind doesn't care about your feelings. It's there to reveal your focus. It's there to separate your emotions from your execution. Because champions don't perform only when it's convenient, they show up when it's painful. They show up when it's dark, when it's lonely, when it feels like nobody is watching. That's where habits are built. That's where identities are forged. You can't become extraordinary by avoiding the ordinary work. You can't reach greatness by skipping the grind that greatness requires. You've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You've got to learn to love the process more than the praise. Because the grind doesn't give instant results, but it gives lasting ones. When you embrace the hard, you build a foundation that doesn't crumble when life shakes you. You become the kind of person who can handle success because you've survived struggle. The grind is not your enemy, it's your opportunity. It's the road you take when shortcuts don't exist. And if you can find joy in that road, if you can learn to smile in the storm, you'll realize something powerful. The hard days were never there to stop you. They were there to show you how unstoppable you really are. Live with purpose, not pressure. Too many people wake up every day chasing expectations instead of meaning. They're running on autopilot, trying to meet standards the world set for them instead of living by the standard they set for themselves. Pressure says you have to perform. Purpose says you get to serve. Pressure makes you anxious. Purpose makes you alive. When you live for pressure, every day feels like a test. But when you live with purpose, every day feels like an opportunity. The difference is not in what you do, but in why times you do it. Pressure comes from outside voices. Purpose comes from the voice within. The world will always try to define you by results. Your job, your numbers, your followers, your status, but purpose reminds you that your value was never tied to performance. You're not here to prove something. You're here to contribute something. When you live with that understanding, the weight you carry begins to shift. The same work that once felt heavy starts to feel holy. The same grind that once felt draining starts to feel meaningful. Because now, you're not just surviving the day, you're serving your calling. The problem with pressure is that it makes you forget the reason you started. It makes you chase approval instead of impact. It pushes you to compete with people who aren't even running your race. That's why so many people burn out, not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing it for the wrong reasons. When you operate out of pressure, your peace depends on outcomes. When you operate out of purpose, your peace depends on obedience. Pressure says, I have to win. Purpose says, I have to grow. One drains you, the other develops you. Living with purpose doesn't mean life gets easier, it means your challenges start to make sense. You understand that setbacks aren't punishments, they're preparation. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's because you realize everyone's purpose has a different timeline. You stop chasing what's popular and start chasing what's eternal. And when you live that way, you stop needing validation from the world because you already know who you are and why you're here. The people who live with purpose are not the ones who never feel pressure, they're the ones who don't let pressure control them. They still face anxiety, uncertainty, and fear, but they've learned how to keep moving through it. They know that peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of purpose. When you know your why, you can endure almost any how. Purpose gives you direction when everything else feels confusing. It gives you focus when life feels overwhelming. It gives you strength when the world gives you stress. Pressure will always whisper, you're not enough. Purpose will always remind you, you're built for this. Pressure tells you to chase more success, more attention, more approval. Purpose tells you to give more effort, more kindness, more heart. When you shift from pressure to purpose, your work stops being about proving yourself and starts being about expressing yourself. You no longer wake up to survive another day. You wake up to serve a mission. That's the difference between living tired and living fulfilled. Don't let the weight of expectations crush the joy of your calling. Don't let the fear of failure steal your fire to fight. Every time you feel pressure trying to control you, remind yourself of the bigger picture. You're not here by accident. You're not breathing just to pay bills and chase titles. You're here to make an impact that outlives you. So when the world demands perfection, answer with purpose. When fear says you can't, purpose says keep going. Because at the end of the day, peace doesn't come from performing, it comes from knowing that everything you do is connected to something that truly matters. Consistency over intensity. Everybody wants to go hard, but not everybody wants to go long. People love the idea of giving everything they have for a week, but few are willing to show up with discipline every single day when the excitement fades. Intensity feels good in the moment, it gives you that rush, that spark, that short burst of energy. But consistency is what builds something that lasts. Intensity is an event. Consistency is a lifestyle. The difference between people who start strong and people who finish strong is simple. The ones who finish never stop showing up. Consistency isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things repeatedly. It's about building habits that hold you steady when motivation disappears. Motivation will come and go. Some days you'll wake up ready to conquer the world, and other days you'll barely have the energy to start. But if your life is built on consistency, you don't depend on feelings. You move with commitment. Because feelings are temporary, but commitment creates legacy. The truth is, the most successful people in any area of business, sports, relationships, or personal growth are not the most talented or the most intense. They're the ones who kept doing the small things long enough for them to become great things. You don't need to give 100% intensity one time. You need to give 1% improvement every day. Because 1% doesn't seem like much, but over time, it compounds. It builds character, endurance, and excellence. That's what consistency does. It multiplies the small into the significant. But most people never see that because they quit when it still looks small. They get frustrated because progress doesn't show fast enough. They want transformation overnight, not realizing that overnight success is usually years in the making. Every day you stay consistent, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your future. You might not see the building yet, but it's growing piece by piece, day by day. Intensity is emotional. Consistency is intentional. Intensity says, I'll go all in today. Consistency says, I'll show up again tomorrow. It's easy to give everything when you feel inspired. It's harder to stay disciplined when nobody's watching, when there's no applause, when there's no visible reward. But that's where real progress happens, in the quiet, in the routine, in the moments when you choose to keep going anyway. You win not because you did something once with passion, but because you did it every day with purpose. The problem with intensity is that it burns fast. It's like fire, it shines bright for a while, then fades out if there's no fuel. Consistency is the fuel. It's the repetition that keeps the fire alive. It's what transforms habits into second nature. When you commit to consistency, you stop chasing motivation and start creating momentum. And momentum is powerful because it carries you forward even when you don't feel like moving. It's easier to keep going when you've already built the rhythm of showing up. Every time you choose consistency, you're proving to yourself that you're reliable. You're building self-trust. You're sending a message to your mind that says, I can depend on me. And once you build that kind of relationship with yourself, you become unstoppable. Because you no longer need external validation, you have internal accountability. You don't wait for the right moment, you make every moment the right one by showing up. The real growth happens not in the big moments of passion, but in the small, boring moments of practice. The athlete who wins is the one who trains when no one's cheering. The student who excels is the one who studies when no one's watching. The leader who inspires is the one who keeps learning even after success. That's consistency. That's the quiet grind that builds greatness. Intensity might get you noticed, but consistency will make you remembered. The world doesn't reward those who start fast. It rewards those who finish faithful. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how loud you start, it's about how long you last. Serve beyond self. The greatest measure of a person is not how much they achieve, but how much they give. The world teaches us to chase titles, positions, and recognition, but real fulfillment never comes from what you get, it comes from what you give away. Life becomes richer, deeper, and more meaningful the moment you stop asking, what can I get, and start asking, how can I serve? Because when you live for something bigger than yourself, Your purpose becomes stronger than your pain. Serving others isn't a weakness, it's one of the highest forms of strength. It takes humility to put others before yourself, to give when it's not convenient, to help when no one is watching, to love when it costs you something. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you can't see. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, the smallest word of encouragement can completely change someone's direction. Serving beyond self doesn't always mean grand gestures or public acts. Sometimes it's just being present, listening, forgiving, and showing compassion in a world that's forgotten what that means. When you serve others, you bring light into dark places, not just for them, but for yourself. Because giving doesn't just change the receiver, it transforms the giver. You begin to see life through a different lens. You realize that joy doesn't come from control, it comes from contribution. The people who make the greatest impact are not the ones who talk the loudest about success, they're the ones who quietly build others up. They lead with heart, not ego. They understand that legacy isn't about being remembered, it's about leaving something that continues to grow after you're gone. When you live for yourself, your life ends when you do. But when you live for others, your impact echoes long after. Serving beyond self gives your pain purpose and your victories meaning. It connects you to humanity in a way that nothing else can. Serving beyond self doesn't mean you ignore your needs or let others walk over you. It means you lead with love even when life feels unfair. It means you use your gifts to lift someone else higher. It means you stop keeping score and start keeping faith. Every time you serve someone, you're planting seeds that might grow in ways you'll never see. And that's okay, because real service isn't about recognition. It's about responsibility. It's about doing what's right even when no one's looking. There's a kind of peace that comes from giving that success alone can't provide. You can have money, fame, or power and still feel empty if your life isn't connected to something meaningful. But when you serve others, you wake up every day knowing you matter not because of what you have, but because of who you've helped. Service gives your struggle significance. It takes your pain and turns it into purpose. The things that once hurt you become the very things that allow you to help someone else heal. That's what makes serving beyond self powerful. It transforms your suffering into strength for others. You'll never regret serving others, but you'll always regret holding back kindness. The world doesn't need more people chasing attention. It needs more people choosing compassion. Every day you have a chance to be that difference for someone, to show up with love, patience, and integrity. Because in the end, life isn't about what you built for yourself, it's about what you built in others. The greatest victories are the ones shared. The truest success is when your win helps someone else win too. When you live like that, when your heart beats not just for your goals, but for the good of others, you begin to understand what greatness really means. It's not found in applause or awards, it's found in the quiet, steady decision to serve beyond self. Choose your response. Every moment in life gives you two choices: to react or to respond. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you always control how you handle it. That's where true power lives, not in your circumstances, but in your response to them. Life will test you, people will disappoint you, plans will fall apart, and storms will come. But no matter what comes your way, the outcome of your day, your peace and your growth all depend on one thing: your response. Because it's not what happens to you that defines you, it's what you decide to do with it. You can't stop life from being hard, but you can stop it from breaking you. When something goes wrong, the world will expect you to react, to complain, to panic, to blame. But choosing your response means stepping back, breathing, and deciding who you want to be in that moment. It's the difference between letting emotions lead and letting character lead. Reactions are quick and emotional, responses are calm and intentional. A reaction is survival, a response is strength. The greatest people you'll ever meet are not those who had perfect lives, but those who learned how to stay grounded in chaos, how to stay kind under pressure, and how to keep their purpose alive in the middle of pain. Every challenge in life is an opportunity to practice control over your emotions. You can't always predict what life will throw at you, but you can prepare your mind to meet it with strength and wisdom. When someone disrespects you, you can choose to rise above it. When life disappoints you, you can choose to keep moving. When fear tries to freeze you, you can choose faith over frustration. Your response determines your direction. If you react out of anger, you create more pain. If you respond with peace, you create progress. The situation might be out of your control, but the story is still in your hands. The people who win in life are not the ones who avoid adversity, but the ones who know how to handle it. Every response is a reflection of your inner world. That's why it's so important to protect your mindset, because your mindset shapes your meaning. and your meaning shapes your response. You can either see the storm as something meant to destroy you or as something meant to develop you. The storm is the same, the difference is the perspective you choose. And when you start to see every setback as preparation, you stop feeling like a victim and start thinking like a victor. Choosing your response is also about patience. It's easy to react when you're hurt or angry, but sometimes silence is stronger than shouting. Sometimes restraint is greater than revenge. Because wisdom doesn't rush, it waits. Strength doesn't always roar, sometimes it stays still. When you learn to pause before you act, you give yourself the power to think clearly instead of emotionally. That's where maturity begins, in the space between what happens and how you respond. The longer you live, the more you realize that not everything deserves your energy, not every battle is yours to fight, and not every insult deserves an answer. Every time you choose your response, you're choosing your future. You're deciding what kind of person you're becoming. If you respond with grace, you become peaceful. If you respond with gratitude, you become joyful. If you respond with bitterness, you become heavy. Life doesn't shape you, your responses do. Every moment is a test of who you are and who you're trying to become. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose to learn, to love, and to lead through it. That choice is where freedom lives. That choice is where growth begins. Because in the end, your response is not just a reaction to life, it's the declaration of your character.